So let's talk about Marsh. Real quick, this video will have spoilers for Mistborn Era 1 through Era 2. So if you have not read all of the Mistborn books and you don't want any spoilers, go watch something else first. It's not the video for you. Anyways, let's talk about Marsh. So Marsh from Mistborn, you could probably think of him as the other brother, you know, or Kelsier's brother. He's always been in Kelsier's shadow, and I don't think he gets enough respect or appreciation or even consideration given his impact on the story. He doesn't have that flair Kelsier has. So in this video, we're going to talk about Marsh, nothing but Marsh. We're going to talk about who he is, where he came from, you know, and what all has happened to him throughout the Mistborn series, where he's at now, and what implications that could have on the future of the Cosmere. So like I said, Marsh is Kelsier's older brother and really the much more responsible one, which compared to Kelsier is not a high bar, but all things considered, Marsh is a very respected person early on in his life and a very responsible person early on. He ends up actually leading the Ska rebellion, the whole rebellion. He's leading it, so he is kind of an important person, but again gets outshined by his thief crew running, you know, glamorous living brother Kelsier. And things are tense between the brothers. Not only did they take very different paths in life, they also were very interested in the same woman. And unfortunately for Marsh, she ended up actually marrying Kel, his brother. And through Kelsier's criminal schemes, actually ends up getting captured by the Lord Ruler along with Kelsier, sent to the pits, and she ultimately dies. That is what, you know, of course, makes Kelsier snap and gain his Mistborn powers, but it also hits Marsh really hard, and he ends up leaving the Ska rebellion and pretty much just blending into the background and just not really having anything to fight for or care about. So it deeply impacted him. And I imagine he held his brother somewhat responsible because it was his brother's schemes that put Mare, this woman, in the position to be captured and tortured and eventually killed. But despite all that, when Kelsier comes back and is leading the rebellion himself, Marsh sees the good that he's doing and puts aside his personal problems with Kelsier and joins up to help the cause. That kind of right there sums up the kind of person Marsh is. He wants to do the right thing, the responsible thing. Unfortunately for Marsh, during the first series of Mistborn, he gets, let's say, recruited unwillingly by the Steel Inquisitors and is turned into a Steel Inquisitor through the means of pounding many metal spikes through his body. So not a pleasant experience for Marsh, but he does end up through that process gaining most of the powers of a Mistborn and a few others, and becomes quite powerful and is able to use that power to advance the causes of the rebellion and do some things for good initially. Unfortunately, because he is so heavily spiked with all these steel spikes and metal spikes of different kinds, that Ruin, the god there on Scadrial, is able to at first influence Marsh's action and then eventually completely take over Marsh's actions and make him do some absolutely horrendous things. And this is extremely traumatizing for Marsh because he is the guy that always wants to do the right thing, and then here he is being given all this power and forced to use it to do some of the most horrible things that we see in the books. But of course, by the end of Era 1 of Mistborn, Ruin is no longer a part of the picture, and Marsh is kind of set free from that control. But set free may be the wrong term because he is so heavily spiked Harmony, which now holds both the shards on Scadrial, technically does have the power to take over Marsh and make him do whatever he wants. But because of the balance of power in Harmony, that's not something Harmony does. Now, an important thing to remember is during this time where he is completely ruled by Ruin, he gains quite a few more spikes. He is the most heavily spiked Inquisitor that we know about. At last official count was over 20 spikes, which gives him most of the Mistborn powers as well as most of the Feruchemy powers, which he's able to then use compounding on some of those. And let's just say he's extremely powerful and immortal now. So yeah, very, very powerful. And because he is immortal now, he is able to go on helping Harmony do good things for hundreds of years, trying to, make up for all the wrongs that he has been forced to do during his life. And after the Lost Metal, that's pretty much where we find Marsh at currently. He still has all of his spikes. He is still extremely powerful. He's immortal. That was becoming a bit of an issue, but they were able to fix that. So he is now completely immortal again and still working as an agent of Harmony to try to do good things. But we do have some issues in that. For one, Marsh and Kelsier. So Kelsier is becoming a very, very major player in the Cosmere and has, as Kelsier always does, a lot of schemes going on. And while Marsh doesn't necessarily disagree with the motives behind Kel's actions, he has in the past, and I think probably still does, have some issues with his methods. So I think we could very well see some kind of civil war happening between the brothers in upcoming Cosmere books, where Marsh may be trying to step in and rein in his brother's schemes. And as powerful as Marsh is, that's not someone you want going against you, not even if you're Kelsier. The other big problem I see possibly coming up is with Harmony. Harmony, has the power over Marsh and is just not using it because of the balance of powers. But as we've seen in the Lost Metal, that balance may not be as balanced as we thought it was. So we have some hints and some clues that Harmony is either losing his mind a little or is leaning a little more towards Ruin as far as the power goes. Either one of those scenarios, bad news for Marsh, because Marsh really can't fight back if Harmony was to take over and try to do some horrific things through Marsh. And if he was to do that, Harmony would have quite the champion for really anything he wanted to do. So yeah, and gods with unstable mental capacities is kind of a Brandon Sanderson thing, so I would not rule that out. And then of course, if that were to happen, you would have Kelsier then probably trying to scheme and plot to save his brother and take down a god, which seems like a very Kelsier thing to do. And even if neither one of those happens anytime soon, we know that Marsh has more than likely been world hopping around in these past 300 years since the end of Era 1 of Mistborn, and his name's kind of gotten out there, and there's a lot of bad actors out there in the Cosmere. I just think there's a lot of enemies out there that he could make, and with his righteousness and wanting to do good and serve Harmony, there's a potential for him to come across a lot of problems out there, or cause problems for a lot of our other Cosmere characters. Either way, I really see Marsh becoming a more and more important character in the Cosmere. He is, I think, going to be one of our top tier players in late stage Cosmere. So if you don't know the motives of Marsh and the history of Marsh, then there's could be some things that come out of left field for you. That's why I think he's one of the most important characters to pay attention to and to understand, because he's going to be coming back around. Death is not a religion, it's a fact, and Marsh is a fact. So Be watching out for him in the Cosmere. If you have any theories on how you think the whole Kelsier, Harmony, Marsh trifecta is going to play out, let me know down in the comments below. I think that's really what's going to be main stage in late Cosmere. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I will see you in the next one.